I totally understand that many of you are beyond thrilled that a Black Widow solo movie, the idea of it at least, is still alive over at the MCU. I am too, although I know some of you are not thrilled. It's interesting. The Black Widow debate as to whether or not she's a legit, good superhero is kind of like a smaller version of what blew up with Wonder Woman, right? So hey, Marvel and Scarlett Johansson, you want a piece of this? The good and the bad? Let's see. But it's good because we thought for a while that maybe Kevin Feige was pulling an evil stepmother with us, right? Like he did with Inhumans. Oh yeah, I'm going to make that movie. Sure I am, right? Oh yeah, also with Sony. Like, yeah, we'll bring your other characters into the MCU. And then he just never does it. And that could still happen here. It's important to remember the Black Widow movie has not yet been officially greenlit. And then also, another reason to be positive about this is that Marvel has really only made 2 bad movies out of 17. And come on, if you love Thor the Dark World and Captain America First Avenger, which I'm sure some of you are vehemently defending right now down below in the comments, hey, more power to you. But you have to love it like I love Speed Racer. You realize you're in the minority and you just have to be okay with that. All right, and I'm sure some of you are like, I'm not in the minority. I'm glad you like the movie so much. But anyway, this video is about managing expectations for what is actually going to happen with the Black Widow movie, because there are already some pretty distinct cues, of what's going to happen on the radar, and people aren't picking them up. So here's the dream. This is what everybody wanted, and I saw a whole bunch of people talking about this yesterday, being like, we're getting it! And that's a Black Widow movie that's a dark espionage thriller, maybe even R-rated, after Bob Iger's recent comments reacquiring Deadpool. And I think he was only talking about Deadpool, maybe a Wolverine movie if they decide to make another one of those. I do not think he was talking about MCU films. But anyway, that does sound great. That does sound very good. And I saw many of you attribute this renewed momentum for a Black Widow movie to the success of Atomic Blonde and Red Sparrow. I saw someone tweet, which movie do we have to thank? Is it both of them? Well, actually, it's neither one. And in fact, these are the 2 movies you have to thank for killing or helping to kill your dream version of Black Widow. So Red Sparrow is going to keep this movie from being an origin movie because they're not going to remake Red Sparrow over at the MCU. Certainly one that's declawed, right? And then, or de-venomed, since we're talking about Black Widow. And then with Atomic Blonde's box office numbers, ouch, that's going to keep this from being a dark rated R movie, and those box office numbers are sad. Sometimes people try and get one by me when I'm arguing with people. Well, we'll say spirited discussing things with people on Twitter by giving me just the worldwide number. You got to look at not only the worldwide number, that's important, but you have to look at how it did domestically versus foreign, because the domestic is the big chunk from America, and that's very important. And then the foreign one is, with the exception of China, is splintered up among a ton of countries. So that makes a number like this look even worse when you break it down for Atomic Blonde. So anyway, the Black Widow movie is likely happening for 2 reasons that are not Atomic Blonde and Red Sparrow. And let me tell them to you. And again, this movie is not officially greenlit. All they've done is hire a screenwriter. Okay, so the first thing is, speaking of that, is that Scarlett Johansson's contract is likely coming up. Kevin Feige has spoken about that being the case with the original Avengers, and Chris Hemsworth recently confirmed that after he finishes filming Avengers 4, the one they're currently filming, his contract will be up, and he would love to return, obviously, to capitalize on the success of Thor Ragnarok. Oh, we're going to talk about Thor Ragnarok later on in this video. I think that has a hand here as well. But so it's probably the same situation for Scarlett Johansson. And so this development might be, apparently Kevin Feige had her come down to his office, talk about the future of the character, and that might all just be the carrot that she and we never get to eat. He'll just dangle it there until she resigns, then be like, oh, what do you know? It's not really gelling. Back to the group movies, ScarJo. And then number 2 is that domestically, as many people have pointed out, the top 3 movies of the year of 2017 featured female leads. But here's the thing. If you think of Rey, Belle, and Diana, well, then you should expect a Natasha who can stand with them, not with Lorraine and the Red Sparrow character who will be named Dominica. That's, Natasha, they don't want her with those 2. That's the wrong clique of women. They want her with the good girls. So that's where they're probably going to want to put her, which I can understand that, but it gets worse, all right? So to back this up, this direction up, Jac Schaeffer, who was hired to write this screenplay, is a comedic screenwriter. That's what she specializes in. Now, she's a new writer in Hollywood who's made a name for herself with action comedies featuring women, both of which, by the way, have gone to Anne Hathaway. Ooh, Anne Hathaway. And by the way, neither one of which has been made, which I think is very interesting. So the first one that got her on Anne Hathaway's radar, and Hollywood's radar, was she wrote something called The Shower, which is about a baby shower that just happens to take place during an alien invasion. It's kind of like This Is the End, maybe. I hope it would be like This Is the End, but who knows, because no one's made it. And if it's really that good, why has no one made it? I think because it stars Anne Hathaway. So anyway, Anne Hathaway got that, and she was so happy, and I guess there was no momentum on that she decided to hire Jac Schaeffer to do something specifically for her, and that was to write a gender-swapped version of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which also nobody has made. Now, the only thing that anyone has made that Jac Schaeffer has written is Olaf's Frozen Adventure. I know! I saw a couple of people point this out yesterday. But you would think that credit alone would disqualify her automatically from writing a Black Widow movie. But apparently not. Also, I have to say, it's very rare for a hot new screenwriter who has excited Hollywood to do the same for audiences. Usually they crash and burn when their work actually hits theaters, if it ever does. Because for the most part, Hollywood does not sample its own product, so therefore they have no idea, at least on a dependable basis, what their customers actually like. So remember when Taika Waititi, he's doing a flurry of interviews, Thor Ragnarok was so successful, he was drunk on its success. I think to some ways, I think Taika Waititi is always kind of drunk, right? That's his humor, which I adore. But someone said, how about a Black Widow movie, Taika Waititi? And he was like, love to do it, but it should be a comedy. And we all thought he was making a joke. Well, apparently he was not. So speaking of Thor Ragnarok, I believe that film's smashing success, which has excited audiences, and me, I love that thing. I just went crazy for it, and I'm still crazy for it. But I think not only was it so successful, but it took Chris Hemsworth and Taika Waititi to new levels career-wise with audiences and within Hollywood. And I think that's very enticing to Scarlett Johansson. She's like, I'd like a slice of that, please. And I'd be like, well, if you were going to hire Taika Waititi to do this, maybe it would work out. But Jac Schaeffer is an unproven commodity. I don't know about this. Now, also, I'd like to say that I've been campaigning for a comedic Thor since Whedon put the character through that filter in his Avengers movies. But I think it is a horrible mistake for Black Widow and also for Scarlett Johansson herself. Take a look at your resume, ScarJo. You have never had a successful comedy. In fact, they have represented some of the lowest points of your career. And don't let that SNL sketch get to your head. You were basically a glorified prop in it. Now, we all know that a Black Widow movie doesn't have to be rated R. We're reasonable, we'll give that one up. But I think we all know that it should be dark-ish, at least, and certainly not comedic. And just keep the budget down, understand that it might not make as much money as some of the other Marvel movies, but that's okay, as long as it can excel in other ways. And it could make quite a bit, the cost to profit ratio could be amazing. And so that would be considered a success. So just keep that budget down and make sure that the movie has amazing action sequences. And maybe throw in an Avenger in there to help her, just like Thor got an assist from Hulk. And maybe it will make as much money as the other ones. The Dark Knight is one of the darkest comic book movies ever made. And it was one of the first to join the $1 billion club. And it was not, it had funny moments thanks to Heath Ledger, but it was for the most part quite serious. So it can be done and succeed at the level that the MCU is used to operating at this point. And I can understand Kevin Feige doesn't want to put that at risk. Just like The Winter Soldier. I think that's the vein we all expect it to go in. And by the way, that's where Black Widow really came into her own as a character. Now, the Russo brothers, they're gone. They're out of the Marvel camp. But you know what? Here's the thing. Maybe Feige hasn't made a female-centric movie over all this time. And really, I don't think has done much with female characters at all. Because maybe he's just not really into female characters in the comics. That's fine. That's cool. He doesn't have to be. The guy can't excel at everything, right? He can have a weakness, and maybe it's female characters. And he should realize that if that is the case, or maybe someone should point it out to him if they're feeling brave enough, right? Maybe it could be Bob Iger, who can say anything he wants to Kevin Feige. Although I don't know if Bob Iger is that aware creatively. He might just be more of a business person, which also is fine, okay? He's hiring creatives to do it. And on that note, Kevin Feige could hire someone who understands female superhero characters, like Warner Brothers brought in Alan Heinberg and Patty Jenkins. I still remember you, Alan Heinberg, even if nobody else does. And they really were able to do wonderful things with Wonder Woman. So find someone who can do a great job with Black Widow and bring them into the MCU. So that's what I wanted to do with this video. I wanted to manage your expectations and give you a realistic mindset of what's coming down the pipeline. And with that in mind, now that you know, isn't it always better to know? I'm sure some of you were like, no, I preferred when I was blissfully ignorant. But now that you know, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on it down below. All right, thanks so much for tuning in, as always, and you can check out some more videos right now.